Good evening, everyone. My name is Benjamin, and today we are looking at how Oregon might potentially redistrict. And this is kind of important considering that recently the Oregon legislature agreed to share redistricting power with the Republican Party. So basically, Oregon's Democrats, who have a control of the legislative chamber, as well as uh, the governorship, they've agreed to share power with the Oregon Republicans who were in the legislature, right? And the reason they did this was basically to stop Republicans from stalling on other legislative agendas and legislative goals of the legislative Democrats in Oregon, right? And this is actually going to lead to an interesting redistricting cycle. I'm probably wrong on how they're going to do this, and whenever it comes time for me to redistrict Oregon in the live stream, I'll probably come up with a different map. But I'll explain why I did what I did and some of the things. Oregon has some rules to basically try to prevent gerrymandering to begin with, but I would actually argue that Oregon's map is gerrymandered to favor the Democrats at present because even with 5 districts, Republicans should probably have 2 seats because they typically get about 40 to 45% of the vote in Oregon in a given election, at least this past decade. So that would be reason to say it should be it should be about a 3-2 map. But the reality is it's almost always a 4-1 map. What we might get, considering Oregon is going to have to add a 6th congressional district, is a 4-2 map, which would be a net gain for Republicans. Democrats would stay the same. Because I'm skeptical that you can reasonably draw, while still following Oregon's redistricting laws, a map that is 5-1 or even 6-0. I really doubt that. The other thing you're going to notice is that most of the population in Oregon is around Portland and Salem, though there's a decent amount of population around Eugene. But one of the big things that Oregon has is you have to try to keep communities of interest together. And that can be a little bit more difficult than you would imagine. So what I tried to do is I tried to keep Eastern Oregon as together as I could and not really go too far into the Portland suburbs or to go into more of the West Coast area in the South. But obviously that's kind of difficult, and maybe I could have drawn the border a bit straighter, but I didn't want to split too many counties. I didn't want to split Eugene up, which I could have easily done, but I just basically went around it. And I kept the 1st district relatively where it is and only crept slightly towards the very outskirts of Portland proper. The 6th district is pretty sloppy. I'll go ahead and show you actually where these districts are, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it was basically the reason why they got like this is, sorry about the Facebook thing. I don't know why I still get alerts. I haven't opened Facebook since 2017. Anyway, the reason why districts will get split up like this is because as a state maybe has to add a district, you may get a situation where your new districts are, say, when you had 1 district, it was at large, then you had 2 districts and you split it east-west, right? So the 1st is over here, the 2nd is over here. Then you get a 3rd district. Well, we're going to assume, let's say you put that kind of in the middle of the north, say around Portland. Okay, 1, 2, 3. They're still all contiguous to each other. Then you have to get a 4th, and okay, let's say you put it in the south, like Oregon actually originally did. It was 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 and 4 may not touch each other. Now, you could have maybe switched it around and said this was the first district, but whatever. It's not what they did. And then they had to get a fifth, and the fifth in real life is a gigantic. It's ugly. Oh my god, it's ugly. But anyway, I'm going to flip and show you the partisan lean, and 4 is actually pretty Republican. And the fifth is marginally competitive. It's not really that competitive. It's about as competitive as the fourth. Now, this is with the composite data. So if we switch it and go, say, Governor 2016, we can see the fifth, all of a sudden, it does become a little bit more competitive. Senator, well, yeah. The presidential race, that's about where I expected it. The AG race, that's a little bit less competitive than I maybe would have expected. 2018 governor's race, it's about where I expected it. And if we flip here, yeah, that's... So I think the composite actually does reasonably represent how competitive these seats really are. There's a few other ways we could do that, and if we really want to, we could actually look at the precincts. That said, that could be argued to be gerrymandering and basically just cracking Eugene. So maybe you can make an argument that instead of doing that, what I should have done is gone up here and included this part over here into the fourth, which would make it a much safer district. And then the fifth actually includes all of Eugene. That's not an unfair argument. But you could also argue that would be gerrymandering. So I think this would be a reasonable compromise. About the only thing I could do to reasonably change it would be if I switch to the fifth. And what I'm going to do is actually turn on the map colors for a quick second. Oops. Turn them back off. And I think I've cut that off. Turn the map colors back on to make sure that I get all of this. This is the other thing that might happen, is they just put all of Eugene into the fifth, and as you can see, that changes a whole heck of a lot. And let's turn the county line, see if I can get away with that. No, I can't. Instead, I will turn on the precinct lines. Maybe do that. Yeah. Actually, that's not terrible. But again, like I said, this basically makes it look horrifically gerrymandered, which I'm not sure would be anybody's goal. But some might say this might be a better solution. Than what I did. Let's not forget that part right there. go. And if I turn off those and turn that back on, obviously it makes the 4th more Republican, the 5th more Democratic, which this is another possible option. I could probably clean it up a little bit and include this in the 5th and this little bit in the 4th, but I'm not sure I really want to. It's kind of where I'm sitting is other than the 4th and the 5th and really the 6th, I'm kind of actually happy with this map because every district that remains keeps its core, and the new 6th basically is kind of in that no man's land because of, well, where do you put it? You know, there's a lot of ways this could go. I'll be 100% honest. But yeah, if we turn off the partisan lean, let's go ahead and actually look at this. So up here on the very coast, there's actually a surprisingly large amount of people, but that's also because you have a fairly large part of the Portland suburbs in the district. If we turn on the county lines, you'll see what I mean. I actually basically kept all of the counties together, 1, 2, 3, and then just included a little bit of Portland in that. Turn off the county lines just to make sure, yeah. Then when we go over to the 2nd, it's basically everything and then a little bit of this. The 3rd is almost all of Portland, just this little tiny bit over here. These neighborhoods can't be included because Portland has grown that much. The 4th, as I said, basically just stops right here, goes around Eugene and then up this way, or the other version, which split Eugene and made 2 more competitive districts. The 5th, this version that I just drew, instead of having a split Eugene, has all of Eugene, and then it avoids Salem. Is Salem? I can't remember. I think Portland is the capital, but it might be Salem. But Salem, Oregon's a pretty big town, so yeah. And of course, that runs from Salem all the way to Portland, and that's the one I'm most sketchy about. So it's what it is, but I definitely think this is a not unreasonable map of Oregon, given the way redistricting is going to work in Oregon. Anyway, I want to say thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you like the content, likes, comments, and subscriptions, they always do help, and I greatly appreciate them. Important links are down in the description, and a subscription on Patreon would not be a bad idea. I'm going to start actually having my patrons vote on content. Because, hey, guess what? That's, viewer participation, and I'm all for that. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you all next time. Take it easy. Bye-bye.